Greeting. Welcome to Phi Hour. Before I begin, I just want to be transparent. This story is inspired by a story from the Ghost Radio. And as always, full credit goes to the original storyteller. I'm simply retelling in my own style for those who may not understand Thai. This story happened 7 years ago. The story is about a woman named Hong, which I would call Jae Hong. Jae Hong is a middle-aged woman who used to work as a food supervisor in a factory, the same factory where her husband worked. But after having serious problems in her marriage, they eventually divorced. Because of that, she decided to quit her job and start over somewhere new. Even so, she still loved cooking. So she thought, maybe she should open her own made-to-order food stall. She started looking for a location and eventually found a place that was up for rent. It was in a pretty good area, near an educational institution and in a building that already had several different food shops. The space itself was very large, about 4 meters wide and 10 meters deep. She asked about the rent, and the owner told her it was around 4,200 baht per month, which she felt was reasonable. So she decided to rent the place and start her business. Of course, starting a new business required a lot of investment. To save money, she bought most of her equipment secondhand: plates, utensils, cooking tools, and even some tables and chairs. But there was still one important thing missing: a refrigerator. At first, she considering using an ice box instead. But then she realized she would have to buy ice every single day, which would add up over time. Compared to that, paying for electricity seemed like a better long-term option. So she decided to buy a fridge. She went onto a second-hand marketplace app and searched for places selling used refrigerator. That's when she found a shop called Lek Panit, owned by a man named Lek. When she arrived at the shop, she looked around until one particular fridge caught her attention. It was a large, double-door refrigerator. She really likes it. It was big enough to store fresh ingredients and also chilled drinks for sale. She thought to herself, if it cost more than 8,000 baht, she might have to ask about paying in installment. So she asked for the price. Hyelek simply replied, 2,000 baht, and I'll give you a 7-day cooling guarantee. If it doesn't stay cold, you can return it. She was shocked by how cheap it was, but at the moment, she didn't think anything suspicious. She just felt like it was a great deal, so she bought it. The shop even offered delivery within 30 kilometers, which worked perfectly for her. Once the fridge was delivered, she started setting up the shop in the evening. Then early the next morning, around 4 a.m., she went out to buy fresh ingredients because it was her first day opening. Before putting anything into the fridge, she prepared her offering. She had a Nangkwak statue and a tray for offering. She placed them on top of the fridge, lit incense, and prayed for good business. She said, if I get a lot of customer, I'll bring more offering. And right after she finished placing the incense, A customer walked in, then another, and another. That day, she didn't even get the chance to put anything inside the fridge. She was so busy cooking non-stop from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. By the end of the day, all her ingredients were sold out. It was an incredibly successful first day. That evening, exhausted, she walked over to the fridge to grab a drink. But the moment she opened it, she smelled something, a strange, rotten odor. She was confused. She hadn't even stored anything inside yet. So where was the smell coming from? She opened the freezer compartment on top. The smell was even stronger. It felt like the source of the odor was coming from the inside of the freezer. Even though she found it strange, she didn't think too much of it. She decided to clean the fridge thoroughly and unplugged it for the night. That same night, something strange happened. Jae Hong had diabetes, so she usually woke up 2 or 3 times during the night to use the bathroom. She slept in the shop itself since there was a small living space at the back. When she walked out, she noticed something. A shadow. It looked like a young girl, probably no older than 18, with a messy hair covering her face. She was standing in front of the fridge. Because the area was full of students and young people, Hong didn't immediately think it was a ghost. Instead, she thought she might be getting robbed. So she quickly turned on the light and shouted, "Who's there?" But the moment the light came on, the figure disappeared, right in front of her eyes. She rubbed her eyes and thought maybe she was just imagining things from being too tired. The next day, she followed her usual routine. She went to buy ingredients early in the morning, came back, lit incense again, and prayed for good business. And just like the day before, customers flooded in. From 7 a.m. until evening, the shop was packed. Other shop owners nearby even started wondering why her place was so busy. Some customer even drove past her shop, then reversed back just to eat there. Others were willing to stand in line under the sun. Again, by around 8 p.m., everything was sold out. But when she went to open the fridge for a drink, the same rotten smell comes back. This time she got annoyed. She even cursed out loud, complaining about the smell even though she had already cleaned it. And then she went to bed. That night she was so exhausted that she didn't wake up at all. The next day, she woke up at 4 a.m. as usual, bought ingredients, and opened the shop at 7 a.m. But this time, not a single customer came. From 7 a.m. until 8 p.m., nothing. Not one order. She was shocked. The day before, she was overwhelmed with customers, but now it was completely empty. Since she couldn't sell anything, she had to store all of the fresh ingredients. But when she opened the fridge, that smell was still there. So she couldn't put the food inside. She then called an ice delivery service and had them bring an ice box instead. She also asked the delivery guy if he knew a technician who could repair refrigerators. He gave her a contact. Let's call him Somchai. That night, she couldn't sleep well. Around midnight, she woke up to use the bathroom again. And then she saw it. The same girl. This time, the girl was sitting in front of the fridge, hugging her knees. That's when Jae-hong realized she wasn't imagining things. She slowly stepped back and watched. She even held in her urge to go to the bathroom. She stood there, watching for almost an hour. Then the girl stood up, opened the fridge, and walked inside. Jae-hong thought, "All right, I got you now." She went into the kitchen and grabbed a pestle, thinking that whoever this was had broken into her shop and she was going to confront them. She slowly approaching the fridge and suddenly opened it. There were nothing inside, only the sound of glass clanging from the door. She frowned, confused, but the smell was still there. As she was about to stand up, her head hit the freezer door above. It was open, somehow. And when she looked inside, she saw the head of that girl inside the freezer. She froze, staring at it. Then suddenly, the head opened its eyes and smiled at her. At that moment, Jae-hong collapsed. The next morning, she woke up, soaked in her own urine from fear. She immediately called Hyelek. He asked, "Is the fridge not cold?" She replied, "It's cold, but your fridge is haunted." The moment she said that, the call was cut. And when she tried calling back, no one answered. It was like her number had been blocked. Desperate, she called Somchai, the technician. She didn't even know how to explain the situation because technically the fridge wasn't broken. When he arrived and asked what needed to be fixed, she avoided the question and instead asked, "Do you buy used fridge?" He said yes and offered her 800 baht. Even though she bought it for 2,000, she agreed immediately. She just wanted it gone. After selling it, she went back to using icebox instead. That day, her business returned to normal. Not too busy, not too quiet. And that night, everything was peaceful. The next morning, she opened her shop and froze. The fridge was back, right in front of her shop. She immediately called Somchai and asked why he brought it back. He was shocked. He said, "That's impossible. I already sold it yesterday." She told him to come see it for himself. When he arrived, he was stunned. It was the exact same fridge. Then she asked, "Where did you sell it?" He replied, "Back to Lekpanit." Apparently, Hyelek wasn't there that day. His daughter was running the shop. Since she knew Somchai, she bought it for 1,200 bahts. They both realized what probably happened. When Hyelek came back and saw the fridge, he must have sent it back. Jae-hong refused to keep it. She told Somchai, "I don't want it, you take it." So Somchai decided to take it home and use it himself. Sometime later, Somchai came to eat at her shop. They both seemed hesitant, like they were waiting for the other to speak first. Finally, Somchai said, "You know your fridge is haunted, right?" Jae-hong played along and asked, "Really? How?" He said that when he brought it home, he noticed the same rotten smell. So he cleaned it up and plugged it in. That night, when he woke up to use the bathroom, he saw a young girl standing in front of the fridge. And then she walked inside it. Then Jae-hong asked, "So what did you do?" He replied calmly, "Nothing. I just took it apart and sold the parts." He sold the outer body to a vegetable cart vendors. And the internal components? Back to leg carnage. And after that, no one ever talked about the fridge again. Some people believe it might have been connected to a murder case, maybe involving dismemberment. But the truth is, no one really knows. That's the story, guys. I hope you guys enjoy both the horror and the strange absurdity of it. If you have any feedback or thoughts, feel free to leave a comment. I am always open to constructive criticism. For now, that's all. See you in the next story. Sleep well.